Over my 900 odd hours of Stardew Valley, I've learned quite a few tips, glitches, and tricks, and today we're going to be going over those glitches. Enjoy. The first glitch is super well known, I've mentioned it in a lot of my videos, and that is the Secret Woods glitch. If you don't know what the Secret Woods is, in the top left corner of Cindersap Forest there is a stump. If you break said stump, you need an iron axe, which is the third tier of axes. You can get into a Secret Woods where you can collect lots of hardwood. Hardwood you use to craft lots of important items later on in the game. However, sometimes players need to get into the Secret Woods early, because you can chop the stumps inside with only a copper axe, but you need an iron axe to get inside. So, if you just grab a chair from one of the houses where you spawn in, run over here, place the chair right there, you can just jump on in, there's nothing stopping you. I'm honestly not really sure why this hasn't been patched. I guess ConcernedApe just doesn't really think it's game breaking enough to be patched, and I'm kinda glad he didn't, because if he did patch it, a lot of my videos would have misinformation in them, which I do not want. I personally don't use this a ton. I normally just check it maybe once a season if I'm in the early game and don't have an iron axe yet, purely because I might get a forageable I need in there, but it's normally not super critical to most of my runs. However, when I do end up getting a copper axe, and I like to prepare for hardwood advance, it is really nice actually. This is another super iconic glitch, and that is the item ID in names glitch. If you didn't know, every single item, or well, not every single item, but most items in Stardew Valley have an item ID assigned to them. And if you put a square bracket, a certain ID, and another square bracket to close it off, then talk to certain NPCs, you will actually get the corresponding item that is equivalent to the item ID. This is obviously a pretty big cheat, and I personally don't use this on any of my saves, and I kind of think you shouldn't if you want to have a legit save, but if you do end up using this, just remember I am not responsible if you end up ruining your save, just saying. If you want to do this, you can head down to the Wizard's Chamber and change your name there. However, ConcernedApe will call you out in the chat, so make sure you can handle that. Other than that, it's just kind of a fun glitch that hasn't been patched for ages, because I think ConcernedApe knows it's one of those glitches that you can't really stumble upon by accident, so it doesn't really need to be fixed, and hey, if people want to use it, fair enough, you know? I don't really have an issue with people using it, as long as they disclose that they're using it and don't try to say oh, I made 1 billion gold in Spring 1, totally legit, because that's obviously not true. But with that being said, if you do use this cheat, I don't really think you have a legit farm, which isn't the end of the world, it's just, I don't know, a bit different. Sorry to interrupt, but this is important. I made a bet that if I reach 60,000 subscribers by the end of this month, I will change my profile picture to a combination of my profile picture and my mortal enemy, Haley. If you're not sure yet, feel free to watch the rest of the video and decide, or check out some of my other stuff. I have tons of other Stardew Valley videos just like this one. Thanks guys. This is a follow-up to the previous one, but basically, if you didn't know, if you don't want to change your in-game name, you can actually just buy an animal and name it that, and when you click on buy and you buy an animal from Marnie, she says, okay, I'll send off little insert name here off, meaning you'll get the item you want. So this is a pretty solid way to I don't know, for example, just get that last artifact you've been grinding towards and you just can't find. It's also a lot easier than changing your name and having to do different methods, since she says it every time very consistently. But if you do want to use the former method consistently, go ahead and buy a telephone, and when you're calling most people, they'll say your name so you can do the method much more consistently. This is a multiplayer only glitch that essentially allows you to rapidly duplicate items way faster than the item ID glitch. Essentially, all you need is a table and a couple of friends in multiplayer. The more friends the better, since you can scale it up and make it a lot more efficient. The first thing you need to do is find the item you want to duplicate. I'm going to be using a prismatic shard for example. Place it on the table, and then you need to take it on and off repeatedly. Then your friend comes over and needs to also take it on and off repeatedly. And if you do it correctly, you'll both get the items, meaning you can rapidly duplicate this. Obviously, if you bring in more players and you can get the timing right, you can have 4 people, for example, or 3, not including yourself, duplicating items at once, meaning you can make insane amounts of whatever item you're duplicating. It's a pretty cool glitch. Unfortunately, it does only work in multiplayer, although you can join using a local account, so you can technically do it by yourself, but come on, cheating this by yourself is just kind of sad, guys. I'm sorry. This is an old glitch that was actually patched, but it relates to the item ID again. So this is my base understanding. I'm not sure if this is exactly how it works, but this is how I assume it would work. Basically, when Stardew Valley checks if you have a certain item, it doesn't check the name of the item, it checks the item ID of the item, because I don't know, that's just how programming works or something. And a certain wallpaper in the wallpaper catalog had the exact same ID as a normal prismatic shard, meaning you could just head on over to the desert and use a wallpaper to get yourself a galaxy sword. no prismatic shard needed, which is kind of useful, but also a kind of funny cheat. Honestly, this is probably one of the cheats I would not feel bad about using on my save, just because I don't think it's really as crippling as like duping or something like that. So it's kind of funny that this kind of happened, because obviously a wallpaper is not equivalent to a prismatic shard in any way. This is similar to the previous one, except worse in every single way. Essentially, you can dupe certain items like forageables since you pick them up at the same time, and due to multiplayer lag, you both get the item, etc. You can also do this with crates on the beach farm if you want to get more stuff from that. It's actually pretty useful there, because if you're in the early game and, for example, you get survival burgers, you can get 4 times the amount of survival burgers you normally would, which is like 1,000 energy, which is overpowered for the mines. But for specifically forageables, which was the main topic, it's a lot harder to pull off. I don't know why, the timing is just a lot more difficult. You got a lot less leeway, and you really got to be in the same page. It's also just like less useful in general, because obviously getting a ton of ores or a ton of gemstone is way better than getting like 4 dandelions, you know? A glitch that has been around since the beginning of time is you being able to glitch out of bounds in certain buildings. The largest example of this is at the doorway in your house. If you just swing your scythe a ton, you will actually be pulled out of bounds, and you can just walk around. You can even just run off screen infinitely, and you will just exit into the abyss, which is, I don't know why, really funny to me. Now you might be thinking, Waligug, what the heck, I just got out here and I can't get back in. I'm screwed. I would be like, wow, you're dumb, because you can just restart the day. But I wouldn't actually say that, because that's rude. What I would actually say is you can actually just walk into where the doorway is and you'll be transported outside. This glitch, as opposed to the other ones, is completely useless, but funnily enough, it's actually my favorite. And that is, you can just glitch into random building. For example, the sheds that you build in, or well, not sheds, the cabins you build in for other players to join. For whatever reason, if you just place a chair and then jump off the chair, you spawn inside of the house. I don't know why, and it doesn't really affect gameplay at all, but it's just really funny to me. You can also do this with a few other buildings, but it's kind of my favorite to do it with cabins, because I can stand inside the cabins, and then when my friends walk out, I can walk out and jump scare them. It's actually hilarious. This is actually a kind of useful hack if you have a kind of crowded farm with a lot of fences. So for whatever reason, if you're riding a horse, you can just kind of glitch through fences if you just run into them enough. I don't know why, but I'm not going to complain, because it's actually pretty useful. Plus, if it did get fixed, I think Mossy would be very, very sad, since he has explicitly stated on multiple occasions that he would cry if this was removed. A tiny bit niche, but hey, if it applies to you, you're welcome. This is probably my favorite and the coolest glitch on this list. So if you've ever tried to build a lot of pigs, or even just a lot of one building at a time, you probably ran into Robin's annoying build times. So when you first buy a building, you can only buy one at a time, and it takes like a couple of days for it to build, which is really frustrating when you're trying to build and upgrade a ton of stuff at once. However, if you're a multiplayer, or you can just bring some friends in briefly, you can actually build up to infinite, in theory, buildings at once. So essentially, if just all of you open the menu at once with all the items you need, head into the build, choose what item you want to build, and then just go to wherever you want to build it, and everyone click at the same time, you can build like 4 to 5 buildings at once, which is insane, because you can build 5 times faster. You can build an entire massive barn of pigs in basically no time at all, which is so much nicer than the couple of days in between each build before. And if you want to know why you would need to build a massive amount of barns for pigs, check out this video on screen to figure that out.